This is Real Talk Tuesday, and today is LGBTQ plus at Ford. My name is Brandy Joe. My pronouns are he, him, and I am so excited to have everyone join us today. So just a little bit about Ford. For more than a century, Ford has been a pioneer in providing opportunity to people regardless of race, gender, ability, sexual orientation, and background. We view this less with pride than the sober realization that we must go further to create a company where our differences are truly valued and every team member can bring their whole selves to work. Creating a culture of belonging isn't just the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing. Diversity breeds innovation, and the companies that attract the most talented and diverse workforce will succeed in our rapidly changing world. At Ford, we are family, we celebrate our differences, and we all belong. So we created the Real Talk Tuesday series to give you an exclusive opportunity to hear from three of our current employees about their experiences working at Ford Motor Company through an identity-based lens. Ford Motor Company believes in doing the right thing, and a part of that is welcoming employees to be their whole selves without judgment. Now, we have asked you to submit questions to our panelists in advance, and we have some really great ones for you. But if you didn't submit one in advance and you have one that comes up during the discussion, please feel free to put it in the chat or the Q&A section. And if we have a moment and if we get through all of our questions that we have pre-submitted, we will get to those as well. All right. I'm going to quit talking and I'm going to introduce you to our phenomenal panel. First off, I'm going to start with Kim. Hello. Would you please introduce yourselves and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you. So, hello, my name is Kim Banjal. My pronouns are she and her. I've been with Ford since 2017, now with Ford Credit. I am a proud graduate of Xavier University in New Orleans for my undergrad, and then also Wash College locally here in Michigan for my MBA. Really happy to be here. Can't wait to chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim.
You're
And we do
welcome.
have a new panelist as than previously announced, and we're so excited. Hello, Neve. Welcome. Please
Hi.
tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Niamh Kendall. My pronouns are she, her. Um, I have been with the Ford Motor Company in one way or another for almost 10 years now. It'll be 10 years in January. I'm a graduate of Purdue University, the School of Aerospace and Aeronautics, which doesn't have a lot to do with cars, you'd think, but here I am. I actually don't have my master's degree. I did half a master's degree in a semester and then decided to go into the workforce. So I know that's a little different these days. Most people come in with a master's. But yeah, I'm not happy to be here. Gonna answer some questions.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited to have you here. And let's dive in. We have one more panelist joining us, Matt. He's running a little bit late, but when he's here, we'll pop him into the equation and learn a little bit about him as well. All right, so our first question. Ford has demonstrated a commitment to diversity and inclusion and equity by endorsing and leveraging the power of our employee resource groups, which are various organizations of employees who share similar characteristics or lived experiences and want to use those similarities to create cross-functional workplace connections, provide professional development, and advance business imperatives. So my first question is, are either of you involved in any of Ford's ERGs? And if so, can you speak to your experiences in them? Neve, let's start with you.
So the main one that I'm involved in is Globe. Globe is Ford's LGBT community. And specifically within that, there's a subgroup for those of us who are trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming, and other forms of genderqueer. And so that subgroup is actually very close. We have our own little personal Discord at this point. But we do a lot of stuff together, and we generally, share our lived experience at work and in life, particularly when it comes to the I would call Kafka-esque scenario that is, like trying to change your name legally, working on stuff like that. And we also, through our connections, try to build a better environment for all of us moving forward. So it's going to come up later, but a lot of the stuff we do, but you know, one of our members is very active in trying to make sure that there's a greater array of diversity in selecting like what your gender is when, you know, going through Ford's internal systems and stuff like that. And or like I've been working a lot with our IT department with name change issues that have come up, and just the way that old systems that had assumptions from long ago, how those work today and stuff like that. So it's a very fantastic way to reach out and find people who have these sorts of experiences and share and pass knowledge down.
I love it, and I agree completely. Kim, what about you? Are you involved in any ERGs here?
I am. So I'm a part of Ford Globe as well, which is really cool. It's been a lot of fun. And then also FAN, which is Ford's African Ancestry network. So I'm a part of both. And I think I just add that, you know, it's really cool to be able to have these ERG groups, not that they're limited to just the folks that identify with that group, but it is nice to have a place to go where, you know, folks look like you could relate, right? You could be your whole self, which I know we'll talk about being your whole self at work in general, but it's really nice to have that outlet. And then there's a lot of opportunity too professionally with different, you know, trainings and workshops and just a lot of other things you can get in terms of professional development from the ERGs. And then fun. So, like with Globe, I've had the opportunity to travel a little bit and recruit at some conferences and participate in Pride here in Detroit at our booth for Globe. So, just really cool to tap into ERGs. And I believe on a campus level, there's, you know, student groups and stuff like that. So, if you have those type of opportunities at your campus, just a really good idea to network and to lean into those as much as possible because you're only going to get out of it, you know, what you put into it. So those
Totally.
are the two that I participate in.
And you were just at Motor City Pride. I saw a picture, I think, of you, right?
I was. It was so much fun.
Yeah, Pride's in October now. At least this year it is because we are back
Thank
to
you.
it.
Right. So much fun.
I love it. Well, that's so cool. Thank you both for sharing those experiences. All right, let's move on to the second question, which is, did you have any preconceived thoughts on the way you would be treated at Ford as a member of the LGBTQ plus community? And if so, what was the reality once you started working here? Kim, let's start with you.
Sounds good. Yeah, I don't think it was a preconceived thought, but I think generally speaking, a fear being new to the organization, quite honestly, being a minority, right, on my team, which for me is often the case as a Black woman. But even, you know, how do I deal with questions as simple as, hey, what did you do this weekend? Right? Is it okay to say, I went on a date with this woman or my girlfriend and I or whatever. So it wasn't a preconceived thought like about Ford, but just more so a fear in general about these new folks that would be my manager and my teammates, my colleagues. Like, how do you navigate it? And what I learned was that it was all in my head. I've been very fortunate. This may not be the case for everyone, but I've been very fortunate to have some really amazing colleagues and management who, you know, are really supportive and just you bring your whole self to work. And I mean, you know, Brandy Joe, we work together. You just put it all out there. So I was pleasantly surprised, but it was just a fear that I put on myself, really.
And Neve, what about you? What has your experience been like?
So my experience was slightly different because I had to come out at work. I had been working at Ford for quite a while and had um, decided to come out and live my true self. Um, at a small level, like with my people leader, that is my supervisor and my direct team, you know, I didn't really have any concerns. I felt pretty safe around all of them, and true to form, that's the reaction I got. It's you know, I have to interface with old teams that might not know new me, um, and and stuff like that. And you take it a little bit at a time. And we, I have some answers that this might kind of intersect with, but Ford is a very large company and it's a very old company. And so that means there's a lot of different people in it. You don't know how people are always going to react. For the most part, I mean, big Midwest kind of area, the Midwesterners, we don't really like to get into people's faces about things. We try to be chill about things. But, I do get a lot of, it's a new experience. Actually, we talk a lot how people who don't know that I'm trans, how they just interact with me as a woman, that is new to me. How I get a lot of, oh yeah, I think I worked with your brother. It's like, oh, did you? How's he doing? Pretty good. And you make those calls and decide whether or not to go forward. But when I do inevitably have like face-to-faces or conversations with people, they almost always go very, very well. And if not very, very well, they go good. They're positive experiences. And yeah, you just learn to navigate, that sort of scenario and how, like Kim said, you learn the boundaries. What is something people are going to listen to? What isn't something someone's going to listen to? Actually, one of the most interesting conversations I've had multiple times is with cis people talking about issues and stuff and being like, you could go into HRT and fix that, right? And they're like, no, I'm not. No. HRT is for cis people. I'm not saying switch your hormones. I'm saying take the one that you need and being able to communicate with them. And I think that's enlightening to them and kind of builds that bridge too. So, the Ford family, we try to help each other. And sometimes you're a little piece of that puzzle that, and it has helped people. I know one guy that I know and worked with quite a lot, is living a healthier life because of, I suggested that maybe he go on testosterone therapy and he seems to love it. So can't complain.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I I myself, I grew up in Wyoming. I never in a million years, as a little gay boy who escaped the small town to come to be a part of the big city. I never dreamed in a million years I would work at Ford, quite honestly. And I when I came on the interview, I mean, I was looking for work. It was in the field that I was looking in, and I thought, like, I will never work at Ford. And I just, like, I came to my interview and I've never felt so welcomed before in an interview, which was just like a huge shock for me. The two folks that interviewed me were just fantastic, and I felt so at home right then and there. And I thought, oh my God, let me get this job. Like, am I saying that? Let me get this job at Ford. And I did get the job, and I truly have never been happier. I've never been encouraged to be more myself than I have here. And that is just the last thing. I mean, I was definitely closed minded in what I thought Ford was compared to what it has been for me. And I'm so glad to have been proven wrong in that regard. And I'm grateful for that every single day that I'm able to come to work and encouraged to be me. And I'm just very appreciative for that. So I just had to throw in my 2 cents. All right, so let's move on to our next question. All right, Ford Motor Company believes in doing the right thing, and part of that is having employees able to come to work as their whole selves. Are you able to bring your whole self to work? Neve, can we start with you?
Oh, of course you can. Oh, God knows that I can't ever be anything less than my whole self. So it's um but yeah, no, I have always felt, encouraged to do that. And um I feel like it has helped, being true to myself, enabled myself to be better at work and be more, in control and more of a functioning piece of everything rather than being constantly kind of a little dour about everything. Um, and for me, I try to pay that forward, like I had already said. I try to go back and do things to clear the way for the next generation of LGBT employees. You find where things are a little rough and you sand it down and just kind of hope that it's a little better for the next time, and maybe they'll come and fix it a little bit more and everything. But I yeah no I do feel very actively encouraged, and especially at the people leader level. Supervisors are always fantastic. They especially when because we have pretty small teams, all things told, and they want to know people. I mean, your supervisor is really just another employee with a little bit more on their plate, and having those relationships means being able to communicate and being able to trust one another when something kind of comes up. And so if you are constantly holding your tongue, that could be very difficult. And so build trust, build better cars.
That's right. Kim, what about for you? You've sort of touched on it already, but could you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, and I think Neve really hit the nail on the head, right? It's the terminology. It's really about trust and communication. And again, I think I've been really fortunate. And I understand that may not be everybody's situation, but I've been really fortunate on the teams that I've worked on to have supervisors and colleagues that allow me to really be my whole self. And so some days are better than others. I have family stuff going on. I have other, responsibilities. I have like all this other stuff in the background. And so being able to have those conversations and the trust and have folks really want to understand you and ask questions and you be okay with that and not be offended. That really helps build the relationship and friendship, really, oftentimes, to help you bring your whole self to work. Today, I tried to tidy up a bit because I was going to be talking to everybody, right? But some days my office doesn't look like this and it's okay. And just, so just literally being who you are, good, bad, indifferent. I feel empowered to do that. But I think that's a testament to the company and our leaders and how we cultivate folks to be in those positions to be able to support the employees to do that. It's tough though. It could be scary, right? But I've had good experiences and it's give and take and it's worked out.
It, it can be a little scary. I know, doing things like this, these sorts of talks in front of, audiences and things like that. I mean, it makes me nervous. And, everyone on my team, my people leader, like they're like, go be you. Like, that's why you're here. You're here because of who you are. And I truly, in the last like 2.5 years, feel more okay in my skin than I ever have before. And I came out 20 some years ago now. And it's just I've really felt like I've come into my own. And I think there's something of being taken a little bit out of your comfort zone in regards to like I'm working somewhere I never thought I'd work before and realizing that my perceptions were incorrect. And then like really being encouraged to be me. And I know it can sound so simple, but when you do it and when you realize you're where you are because of who you are, so don't try to hide that. Like let that light shine through. And if it means you're a little weird and a little silly, then that's okay.
That's okay. And if I can add, I think, as unfortunate as the past couple of years has been with COVID and quarantine and all that, I think it's kind of allowed us to be our whole self even more because the line between work and home and life is like all the way blurred and messed up, right? And
Yeah.
so it's not that you come to work and you're this very like polished professional Kim, because sometimes people do that, right? You switch it up, right? You go to work one way, you talk a certain way, you act a certain way, and then you get in your car, you go home, you're, the after five version of Kim, which still exists. And what time is it, by the way? Because she's about to be here. But so that is a thing. But now, if I'm helping my mom with something, right? She might walk in and she's got a question. How do I work this cell phone? Whatever. So it's just, it helps you right now, and there's nothing we could do about it working from home, but it's just the lines are blurred and it is what it is. Like you get what you get. And luckily we have teams and managers who, accept all of that and really appreciate it. It makes us all different and unique. That's what makes our teams great.
100%. Thank you so much, both of you, for your answers there. All right, the next question is, what sort of advice might you give to LGBTQ plus folks who might be on the fence about applying to a job at Ford? Kim, let's start with you.
Yeah, I love this question. So I work in talent in HR and recruitment. So this is all me. Definitely apply. I think Ford and Ford Credit, we value top talent. And so we walk it how we talk it by, where we recruit, where we choose to spend our time, a lot of our strategies with obtaining talent, all of that. So I won't bore you with all the details, but the LGBTQ plus talent is important to us. We want to make sure, even by doing talks like this, right? We want to have the lines of communication open. We want to make sure that we're obtaining diverse candidates and diverse pools of folks to come and work for us. That's what makes us different. That's what makes us better than any other company, because we, the three of us right now, are here. And so I would encourage folks, if you are interested in working for Ford or Ford Credit, definitely apply, but do your research, right? You'll see what we stand for, what's important to us, what we do in the community, and why, and then make a decision from there. But I believe that once you do that research, you will come to learn that this is where you want to be.
Thank you so much. Neve, what about you? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, and so Kim and I have very different experiences, I think, here. Not that we have very different outcomes, but we're coming from product development. Earlier I said Ford is a very old company, and what I mean by that is it has a very old energy. We need less cis white het men, making decisions based off of their own lives and assuming they're the default. So and I'm joking, but I'm not. Like, in one of my older jobs, I did something that was a very subjective part of product development, where everyone has a way to do it, and the way they do it is unique to them. But we would be in meetings and people would be like, well, do you do this? And one of the things that came up is like, well, who doesn't wear really big, clunky, winter boots at winter? And every woman looks around and goes, us, because you expect us to be in heels. Or, we don't get those kinds of boots. We get Uggs at best, or, kind of more waterproof ones that aren't very warm. But you can't, but to have that guy just sit there and go, well, we all do it that way, right? It's like, well, no, that's not how the entire world works. And at the time, I was still, presenting as male at the time. And I remember even talking to some of, the women in the room being like, that's not true, is it? Like, because even then I was still pretty, flamboyant in my dress, and I usually wore very small Italian shoes. Like, I didn't wear big, heavy winter boots. And it's like, does he know that? Does he know that I'm not just the one weird person in the room? And they all shrugged and said, welcome to a man's, world. When we have, and it goes beyond that. That's a very easy to understand thing. But I know that, like, when we talk about the intersection of race and technology, like the ability for cameras to recognize people, when we talk about, just recognizing what's going on in a situation, um, those perspectives mean a lot. And the reason, we really want them is obviously we want to build a better product, but also that means that if you come into a situation like this, there's a lot of value that you bring that isn't just like, oh, you're, the bestest of the best. It's also that you bring that unique perspective that we need, that everyone needs. You could then build a better car. The car that is designed by a unique, diverse product development team is better. It'll set the standard. What we do becomes the norm as we replace the old, rusty kind of ways that we built and designed cars for only one person in mind. And so if you think that you're not going to make those changes, if you're not going to contribute, you absolutely will, because we absolutely need to hear more voices. And I think leadership in particular, but even in the smaller level, seeks it out. We want to hear, I don't wear those awful boots. I wear shoes, even in the winter. Like, it means a lot. And so, yeah, if definitely feel that you will be empowered here and that you will make a difference. And yeah, and that difference is going to live for a long time. Let me tell you, as someone who writes a lot of requirements and test procedures, when we come up with something good, it sticks around for a long time. So
That's awesome. That's inspiring already to me. I want to work at Ford. Oh wait, I do. That's fantastic. And I know, I think Kim, you sort of touch on this, like do your research. And I mean, like there's so much that we do here at Ford, and we'll probably get into a little later, but like we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion week, and it's just chock full of so many like wonderful events. And I mean, the DEI efforts here are very strong, and I mean it is all about making some change and moving forward. You know, so it's do your research and be like, does this place meet, you know, the values that I have and that are important to me? And I would come to believe that most likely Ford would. So
I think so
definitely do
too,
it.
Brandy Joe. And if I could just add one other thing, I
Yeah,
think we're going to
please.
touch on it a little bit later, but even down to putting my the HR person here on the line, even down to like the benefits and stuff that we offer, some that are specifically applicable to the LGBT plus community. So I think like look at it total package from Ford and Ford Credit and what we offer, what's important to us and why. And again, to your point, I think you'll find that this is a great place to work. So I think there might be a question where we could touch on some of that later specifically, but I just wanted to throw that
Let's
out
hop
there.
into it now. I think that that's a great little
Um,
shift there. We did have a question that came in that says, does the company insurance cover trans healthcare? And there's some very exciting things in regards to this question. Who like Neve, do you have some information in regards to this?
I do, and I'm sorry because I am trying to make sure that I pull it up and stick to um, the talking points, or I'm going to go on forever. Yes, absolutely. Actually, Ford and Blue Cross Blue Shield has actually just this year, back in Pride Month, redid how they cover trans healthcare, and it was actually such a huge change that it actually allowed, if I remember right, there was like effectively an ability to open enroll for a little bit to get back into it, just because it was such a massive change um, on how they cover, especially surgical procedures, which had mostly fallen outside of coverage. They're now inside. That includes things like facial feminization. It includes tracheal shaves. It includes HRT is still covered. One of the big things that we were fighting for was and are still, as far as I'm aware, Blue Cross Blue Shield is very receptive to this, is getting rid of all the cis gatekeeping, needing all the letters and stuff. We're getting rid of that. One of the big things that that we also try to do is ensure that such coverage was inclusive and intersectional, because a lot of companies will cover, for example, laser hair removal, which doesn't work on African Americans most of the time. And so it's like you can't just cover something for white people. You know, if you know there's a better alternative, you've got to use it instead. And so we've ensured that, and I am now out of focus. There we go. We have now ensured that, for example, electrolysis is also covered, that it is intersectional and all like and stuff like that. So it is fantastic, and we are working to continue to improve that, because there can always be improvements, but it is very much, if you are worried about affording transition, you do not have to really worry too much at Ford. And then on top of that, on top of working, if you're here in Southeast Michigan, you have some of the best trans healthcare in the world. The Henry Ford hospital system is very supportive, but you also have LGBT specific clinics. You also have Dr. Powers is based here in Southeast Michigan. I know that he's known quite around the world. And so, yeah, I don't want to say it's easy being trans in Southeast Michigan, because it's never fully easy being trans, but there are definitely places where it would be significantly harder. And Ford is a big part of that for me, being able to do everything that I do. So
Awesome. Thank you
thumbs
for
up
sharing
for
that.
Ford's
Yeah,
healthcare coverage.
yeah, and I'd add there are some other benefits too, like infertility benefits as it relates to testing for infertility, adoption assistance, our benefits for married couples, same sex and opposite sex. So just a total comp and benefit package for Ford that we offer for folks, which is really nice.
That is really cool. All right,
Yeah.
I'm moving Matt. Matt is here. Matt, hello.
Hi everyone. Sorry I'm so late.
Hello.
Better late than never.
Yes. All right.
Hello.
Yeah. Still not able to get in video wise. I don't know why, but anyways.
Oh, shoot. All right. Well, Matt, just since you're joining us, tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Matt Tomai. I've been working for Ford for 8 years. I work in battery cell integration and applications inside of our Electrified systems engineering organization. And I've been working with Ford Globe recruiting with Kim for, I think it's 4 years now, it feels like. And so been a part of Ford Globe for 5 or 6 years. So yeah.
Awesome.
Graduated from University of Wisconsin-Madison, chemical engineering degree in 2012, and then my master's in chemical engineering at Wayne State University.
Fantastic. Well, thanks. We're so glad to have you join. And I'm sorry that the video presentations don't seem to be there for you, but
Not working. Don't know
all right.
why.
So I want to go off of the question we just had, which was sort of, about our benefits here, but in particular it was asking, covering trans healthcare. So we had this other question come in that I want to get to, and here it is. I am transgender, but not currently out at home. I was wondering what kinds of advice you could give for job searching in this situation, such as how to find companies that are LGBT friendly and how to communicate with companies in a way that is in line with my identity while also still being safe at home. It's a heavy question, but I think it's a really important question. Who would like to start us off there?
I can start, but I'm going to need Kim to come in eventually because, but like in all seriousness, this question was the last one that I went through and actually answered, and I left a lot of space. A lot of my time outside of Ford is often spent helping trans people deal with stuff, and I'm not going to use ages because it's an experience thing. Like you could be 60 and still starting on the whole road. There's a lot of context that comes into questions like this because of what is your home environment like? What sorts of stuff exist? There are people who exist with like intolerant parents who are not necessarily controlling, but there are also people who exist in environments that are very unsafe. And so the first thing that I would always recommend to any trans person is stay safe. Safety is number one. It can be uncomfortable at times, and it's not always what we want to hear, but sometimes it would be better to have you applying and free at Ford in a year than to know that your parents cracked down and did something potentially catastrophic. And so some of the thoughts that I came up with was, for example, letting the person you're actually recruiting through know, or at least sharing names and pronouns, for example, on the resume, even though the application might be under a different name, because you'll hand a physical copy of your resume, it'll have your name and pronouns on it. Present the way that you are comfortable at the time. For example, if Ford flies you out and you've got a hotel to yourself for a couple days, I'm not saying present the way that you think you want to present, but you could potentially then have the opportunity to present as a unique self. But for example, your dad's dropping you off because, you haven't moved out yet. He lives down, on Southfield and Ellen Park. Then obviously, again, stay safe. I wanted to stress that this would be a lot of moving parts. You're going to have a lot of people interacting with you, including your parents. So there's the thing that struck me, and this is kind of where you might come in, Kim, is obviously the two main fears of a trans person doing this is A, unintentionally being outed to their parents through, for example, the name on a letter that comes in. or B, potentially being dead named by Ford through the process. And in a perfect world, that system would work. That Ford would know to send under this name, but only refer to you under that name. But we don't necessarily live in a perfect world. That's not a Ford thing. That's a reality thing.
Neve, real quick, could you, for people out there who may not know, can you describe what a dead name is?
No, it's your dead name. It's the name that shall not be spoken lest you want to die.
No, but not your dead name, but like what that
Right.
term
A
refers
dead
to. I don't
name
think everyone knows.
I mean, it is your previous name before transition. In trans cultures, it is very frowned upon to use someone's dead name at all, including talking about times when they might not have used that name at the time, or did use that name at the time. It is called a dead name for a reason, and so we live in a society that is not okay with people just up and changing their name. Let me tell you, been waiting a lot of weeks for that court order to come in. A lot of weeks to hear back from Social Security, and so yeah, I'm prickly at that question. The other suggestion that I had was, how much of this could be done over email or in another way that gives you total control over the flow of information, and minimizing the chance that your parents see what's going on. Obviously, I'm not going to use Ford as a platform to tell you to ditch transphobic parents and to embrace found family, but I'm not going to retract what I just said. So stay safe. That number one, stay safe. I'd rather you be here in 2 years as you than to hear that something terrible happened. So.
Thank you. And I mean, yes, there's a lot of really great information there. And I think you're right that the key is to stay safe. And Kim, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add, certainly stay safe, certainly communicate with your recruiter or hiring manager in terms of pronouns that you use and things to that effect. So I think the communication would be helpful. And then in terms of, I think the first part of the question was like, how do you find a company that's LGBT friendly or something to that effect? I think that just goes into the research. Like, take your time and understand not just the role that you're applying for, but learn about the company and what they do in the community, what's important to them, what type of initiatives, all of that. There's all kinds of lists that say, top companies to work for this group or that group, right? So you could just research a bit, ask some of those questions during the interview. At the end, usually they say, hey, do you have any questions for me? Talk about some of their efforts for, ERGs or whatever group you're interested in if you feel comfortable saying that. And so I think it's just the communication, a little bit of research, a little bit of communication, and of course, stay safe. And I think the really cool thing about our company and about our leaders, and we may touch on this a little bit later too, is there's so many resources and training for us as it relates to DE&I and inclusion and, how to have these courageous conversations and all this. So I think, when put in a situation like that, I think our teams are well equipped or learning how to be better equipped, right? We're all on a journey together with how to, make a candidate feel comfortable during that interview process.
For sure. And Matt, do you have anything to add as well?
I think that they both covered that much better than I could. So I'm gonna leave it right there.
All right. Well, we're
Thanks,
actually
Matt.
we're nearing the end of our time here. So a question came up in the chat that I think is a great one to answer. And it is, what is one thing you would suggest to those who are experiencing homophobia within their company? So Matt, I'm going to start with you. You're a
Yeah.
little late to the party here.
No, that's fine. So with that one, oof. So some companies, I know that at Ford we have a way to anonymously talk about if someone is experiencing any type of discrimination, not just homophobia, but racism, anything like that. They can report as, and they can, and it is, yeah, it is law that you cannot discriminate on certain bases like this. So there is usually, and at least with Ford, there is a portal, there's a mechanism to be able to do that. So I would say check for anything like that on your corporate website. Also, other ways are just have a communication with, if you feel comfortable, have it again, always stay safe first and foremost. Have a communication with your, what we like to call, people leader here at Ford. Or if that is your people leader that you are feeling discriminated against, it may need to go to a higher level. Or always, what every company will tell you, talk to your HR representative. That is another mechanism that is there. If you feel, and this is again going back to, if you feel safe having a conversation with said coworker about said things that are being said, you may do so. But that is not always, if this is something that is communicated within the workforce, it usually is either a very ingrained personality trait that is going to be a difficult thing to have a conversation around, or it is directed with purpose. So that would be not my first choice as far as some sort of a conversation around that. However, I have heard of a couple of people that have had certain conversations around that and they have been constructive. So, that would be what I would say is my advice. There is almost always within a company somewhere to communicate about this, whether it be HR, your people leader, or through this essentially, gosh, I'm trying to remember the term. Help me out, Kim, or anybody, if you remember what it's called. The reporting system, but yeah, that I would say, and if there is no such mechanism, well, I think you know the answer then at that point. I think it's time to find something. Thank you. That,
Thanks,
yes.
Matt. And I think
Like,
it's called Speak Up here at
yeah.
Ford.
Yeah.
Speak Up. Yes.
Yeah.
Speak up at Ford.
Speak Up at Ford. Kim, what about you? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yep, and sorry, Matt, I was trying to wait till you finished your thought before I jumped in. But yeah, just zero tolerance for that as the talent or HR person on the panel today. No tolerance for that. The point for us is just to really care for each other and to take care of our people now more than ever. So I think if you are experiencing something, definitely let someone know. Either anonymously or otherwise. And again, our managers and supervisors and colleagues have been trained or are training to learn, how to appropriately handle those situations. So for sure, not tolerated. That's just not what we're about. Not to say that it doesn't happen, right? We've got a long way to go, but there's lots of things in place to try to prevent those things and make sure everybody is comfortable here every day, all day.
And Neve, close us out. Do you have anything to add as well?
To all of that, I mean, yeah, well, no, actually, I don't have much to add. I think they covered up all of our bases pretty well. I have actually had conversations with people directly with good results, but it is about reading the situation and knowing that, like I said a couple of times in this thing, old company, old energy, is you do have things that people are like, well, it's just water cooler talk. They don't know if they mean anything by it. You also get like, unfortunately, the only term that I know for it is not work appropriate, so I'm not going to use it here. You get the people who try to do the Schrodinger sarcasm, where they say something, and if everyone gets offended, it was a joke, and everyone's being a little too on edge. And if someone takes it seriously and goes, yeah, then that connection's made. You can step in and be like, that was not okay. That is not funny. And if they're sincere and being like, oh wow, I didn't know that. I didn't even think about that. Usually they'll be open to a conversation. You can be like, yeah, there's a history of that. It's not okay. And if they kind of push back, you can decide based off of our motto for the night, stay safe, what to do moving forward. And remember that you can reach out to your fellow workers and stuff like that, and your coworkers, and especially, it's almost kind of a stereotype that like all the women talk, and like stay away from that. Don't go into that manager's office alone. That's unacceptable stuff. You shouldn't have to talk about that. If that's a known issue, help organize, your coworkers and get stuff reported, make changes. And I've been involved in that sort of stuff before, and seen changes made to the way that the company works. So yeah, communicate, stay safe, know who you're communicating with. But yeah, be proactive in it, fight for yourself. And I know that's not an easy thing to do. It's very easy for me to say. It's very easy for me to do because I've been with the company a long time, and I have, a lot of, piss and vinegar in me. But yeah, long journey, but it's made taking steps. So there we go.
I love it. Thank you. And it's true. I mean, if you're experiencing that, please take action. But as we keep saying, make sure that you're being safe. Make sure to, confide in someone that you trust, and just don't just simply live with it, please.
And there's one other thing that I did want to say, shamelessly shouting out your ERG, like we have all these ERGs here that are speaking up for some level of diversity. If it is something about specific to diversity, and we need to action it within Ford, that's a great spot to like really start to have the conversation around what needs action.
That's a good point.
You'll especially know that the two advantages there are people are already on your side, and then it also adds a layer of anonymity that they can't necessarily tie it directly back. Like if the ERG goes, or the ERG leader goes and says, hey, I've been hearing complaints about so and such, there's a weight to that. And like I said, that there's a weight to, working together, as a company, building that bridge. So yeah, please definitely look for your ERGs. And they're not just there to have social parties, even though God knows I love social parties.
Well, thank you all. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, Neve. Thank you so much, Kim. It has been fantastic to have you all share your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences. It is tremendous. I love this company. If you're interested in working here, there's a real easy way to see what opportunities await you. And that's careers.ford.com. And I know that both Matt and Kim and myself have LinkedIn accounts. Feel free to reach out to us. If you know about this from Handshake through me, feel free to reach out to me through Handshake. Ask me any questions you might have. We can continue this conversation. We're very grateful to have you here, and I'm really grateful to the three of you. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope everyone has a really terrific day.
Yeah.
And thank you so much.
Okay. Have a nice one, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Later. Yep.
And send pictures of those Halloween costumes.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.